Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette Syndrome. So in today's video, I thought it would be a really cool idea to talk about some tic triggers, because for those of you out there without Tourette Syndrome, I'm sure you don't know the extent of some people's tic triggers, and so I thought it would be really cool to talk about some of mine and maybe some of yours, and just to let you guys know are some things that trigger us as people with Tourette Syndrome. So before we get started, let me just back it up. My name is Carly, I'm 22 years old, and I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome when I was 12, so it has been quite a long journey of tics and figuring out what my triggers are, how to suppress, how to let out my tics in a comfortable way. So it has taken a few years. That was a tic and I just hit my fan, oof. So it has been a few years of trying to figure out how to get around the world of Tourette Syndrome and how to deal with it in a healthy manner. Not gonna lie, I'm not always the healthiest at dealing with it, but I'm learning, and the goal of this channel here is to break the stigma around Tourette Syndrome, as well as letting you guys know the truth about it and to provide you guys with education. So if you want to stay tuned and subscribe to my channel, that would be heckin' awesome. And yeah, let's get to the triggers. Okay, so my first humongous main trigger is mentioning tics or talking about my tics. Now, this may seem counterproductive considering this channel talks about Tourette Syndrome and tics, but when I talk about tics in casual conversation or when I'm like, hey, I'm not ticking, that often leads to more tics, which is so bizarre. The brain is a crazy thing. But when I think about tics or when someone else mentions my tics to me, I will often tic a lot more. So the best thing to do to someone with Tourette Syndrome is to not mention their tics to them, because if they're like not ticking in that moment, don't be like, oh my gosh, why are they ticking? Because if they're not, it's like a good moment for them, and as soon as you bring it up, they're going to start ticking again. So not good. So yes, the number one trigger is mentioning of tics, either from myself or from other people. Another trigger that is humongous in the world of Tourette Syndrome is stress and anxiety. So anytime that, for example, I'm really stressed about school or work or something in my life that is just very stressful, I will often have way more tics. So that's not good, but a way to counteract this is to find ways to deal with your anxiety, such as deep breathing and stuff. However, that doesn't help the tics, it just helps the anxiety, which then lessens the tics sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, but anxiety and stress are another humongous trigger for Tourette's. Another trigger for me, which is so random, is temperature. So if it's really hot or really cold, my tics get a lot worse, and I don't know if this is normal out there. So if this relates to you at all, please leave a comment letting me know if your tics get worse when temperature gets to like an extremity, because for me it does, and it's so bizarre. But I live in Canada, and in the winter it can be up to -40 degrees Celsius, and that is heckin' freezing. So when it's cold, my tics are pretty intense and not good. But when it's really hot too, like +30 degrees Celsius, my tics will also be a lot worse. And I don't know if that's like a common thing, but for me, that is a trigger. Another trigger, which is kind of common sense, is seeing someone else tic. Now, this is something I don't talk about all the time, but for example, I don't always watch other Tourette Syndrome YouTubers, because when they tic, I can often pick up on their tics. So there is such a thing called echopraxia, which is basically when someone with Tourette Syndrome sees another person doing a movement, they will repeat that movement as their own tic. That's not the best definition, but that's kind of what it's like. So another trigger is when someone else tics or does a movement that's like, oh, this is an interesting movement. I will repeat that movement and it's a trigger. So for example, if someone does one of my tics as one of their tics and I see it, often my tics will get triggered. Another trigger for me is school. Now, this relates back to the anxiety and stress one, because school triggers a lot of anxiety and stress. But regardless, when I'm in school and everyone's focusing and I'm in a desk, especially when it's not online school, when it's real life school, when I'm in a desk in a classroom surrounded with other students, I feel like I'm being watched. And I know I'm not, but I feel like I am. And when I feel like I'm being watched, or like I can't move because I'm in school and supposed to be paying attention, my tics get worse. And so kind of an odd explanation, but I guess with school as well as the stress, as well as relating to being like the center of attention, even though I'm not, but like being the thought of being watched is a huge trigger. So I guess when I'm being watched and I know I'm being watched, like in person, my tics get worse. Another trigger for me, which I don't know if it's just unique to me because I haven't really done research about this, but another trigger to me is exercise. And this is so heckin' bizarre because exercise is so good for you and it's supposed to help with your mental health. But for me, when I do running or go for a walk or play soccer, for example, my tics will increase dramatically. So when I'm on a bike ride, for example, my tics will just be like so intense to the point where I don't really want to do the bike ride because it's just so intense with tics. And I don't know why this is a thing, but exercise and physical activity and just like getting the sweat going really intensifies my tics, which is weird. Another tic trigger, which is kind of weird, is when I'm being touched or like super close to, depending on the situation. So sometimes if I'm like cuddling my boyfriend or just like hugging someone, my tics are like, I need to tic a lot. And it's like not good, but this varies on the situation. Sometimes I love hugs and sometimes I love being in close contact with people, but other times when my tics are bad and I'm having a bad tic day, when people like touch my skin in any way or even close to me, not even touching me, it is brutal for my tics and my tics will get a lot worse. So on those days, I'll politely ask you to like just back away a little bit, please, because my tics are bad. Also, who's gonna want to cuddle someone when they're ticking? Like, it's not comfortable, but that's another trigger that I think is pretty common. I don't know, let me know. Another trigger, which is super weird, is knowing I can't tic or I'm not supposed to be ticking. So for example, if I'm in a movie theater or at a hair salon or getting a tattoo, like when you know you're not supposed to be ticking, it's almost like your brain is like, we gotta tick like even more now. It's so weird, but people with Tourette syndrome, like our brains are like wired to tick a lot, and that's just how it is. So when our circumstance that we're in is being like, hey, don't tick, our brains are almost like combating that by being like, let's tick more. So it's a constant battle with my brain, like not being able to tick in certain situations and like therefore wanting to tick more is a trigger. It's really weird, and the Tourette syndrome brain is a super weird place. I wish I could understand it more, but that's a trigger that I think is common and weird as well. Another trigger which isn't talked about as much is being tired. So this is weird because you think if your body's tired, you're not going to want to be moving that much, but something weird with Tourette syndrome is when you're tired, sometimes your tics get worse, and it's like your body is physically exhausted, but for some reason your brain is like, let's move your body right now, or let's make weird sounds, and it's just really bizarre. But being tired, like extremely overtired, can be a trigger, which is weird, but we don't know. And the final trigger that I'm going to talk about in this video is one that doesn't affect me too much, but it used to: caffeine. So I'm not gonna lie, anyone that knows me in real life knows that I'm obsessed with Coca-Cola, and that is a caffeinated beverage. So when I drink it, sometimes my tics get worse, and it's kind of like, do I want to drink it and have tics, or do I want to not drink it and be sad because I'm not drinking Coca-Cola? It's silly, but when I have caffeine, sometimes it's like the sugar's like, and my tics get worse. So it's strange, but what can you do? That's a trigger, and it's one that I don't like to avoid because I really like drinking Coca-Cola and it's my favorite drink and I don't want to stop it, so that's my own fault. So there you have it. Those are some of the most common tic triggers in people with Tourette syndrome. I hope that you enjoyed this video and maybe you learned something. If you're out there and you know someone with Tourette syndrome, try to avoid these triggers around them because like ticking sucks. It really takes a lot out of you, and if you can kind of just like combat ticking by avoiding these triggers, like that's heckin' awesome. So please help us with that. I'm probably gonna make another video talking about triggers because these weren't all the triggers, these were just the ones on the top of my head, and I think that they're the most known ones, but I'm gonna make more tic trigger videos, so stay tuned to my channel. If you want to stay tuned and get all of my videos, please subscribe, and I think there's a notification bell you can click to like get my videos right when I'm uploading, which is awesome, so click that too. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something or if you relate to this at all, and leave a comment down below saying hi, telling me what you want to see in future videos, or letting me know what some of your most common tic triggers are, because I love hearing from you guys and I love relating to you guys. I want our comment section on here to be just like a friendly community of people who are learning and being happy together. So yeah. Before we go, I just want to let you guys know I have an Instagram account at ticcingclock, and I'm always available in my DMs. If you want to talk to me, reach out. I'm always here for you and I'm always in your corner. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching and have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we're ticking together and we're laughing together and we're learning together. Bye.